they may think that they eat a lot, but when I actually get them to write it out, they're usually like 500 to 1,000 calories under a normal day, right? And that's not even trying to build muscle. The glutes are something that you can target directly, and you actually need to turn them on properly. Like, you've got to get some band work going to activate them, and then really heavy lifts. Like, you see girls online doing a body weight squat saying that they grew their glutes. It doesn't work like that.
Welcome to another episode of the DC Talks podcast. I'm your host, David Chinelli, and this is DC Talks. And I have a beautiful, lovely, amazing guest, part of my family, the DC family, Ariana Kermick. Hey, Ariana, how are you doing today?
Hey, I'm great, thanks. Thanks for having me today. I'm excited, long overdue. But
have you done a podcast before?
I actually haven't, no.
This is your first one, yeah. So sometimes people come in a little nervous, and even though Ariana, you're amazing on camera, and I'll talk a little bit about our history too, but she also is like part-time realtor as well. Like, you do that part-time. She's part of the DC team. So if you watch any of my videos, like recently, you've been coming up like a lot lately. We try to get her as much as she can, but we're not here for the real estate side because she is an amazing fitness trainer. Like, you've started, that's how, we started working together beforehand, before real estate started. But we'll get you a little introduction. But welcome to episode 112. That's right, 112 of the DC Talks podcast. You're going to love this episode because we're going to dive a little bit deeper into what the life of Ariana, what it's like to become a trainer and maybe do real estate on the side too if we have time. All right. So a little bit of background for Ariana and I. So I've known Ariana's family for like over 20 years. I used to coach her brother in hockey. That's how we got to know each other. And her dad and I really hit it off. And your family's been part of my family ever since. And, things that happened, I went to university, came back. And then when I started in real estate, your dad called me. We helped get a property, which ended up being your condo.
Yeah.
And that's
exactly.
And we started talking, you and I started talking, and because your dad talked about, like, you showed me some of your fitness stuff you're doing and what you were doing lately. And then so he goes, you have to follow her. And if you know anything about Dennis, he was just, he made us follow your dogs. He's just an amazing guy. And then I noticed you were training, and then I reached out. I asked Dennis, I said, your dad, hey, does she do training? He goes, yeah, reach out to her. And ever since, that was just before COVID, we started working out together, and then that led to the real estate. So it's a little bit of a history behind us. She's literally like my little sister. We talk about this over and over again. And now to this day, she comes and trains me at the house, and sometimes the wife's around, sometimes not, but it's like, we love having you part of the house. And so that's why you're here today. So let's get into it.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Is that a good intro?
That was a great intro.
So how did you get into like the whole training world? Like, what was you went to university, you played hockey at U of T, I believe?
I didn't play at U of T, but while I was at U of T, I played for Brampton. So I did play competitive sports my whole life. Fitness has always been something that I've loved since I was a little kid. So it was soccer and hockey forever. And then when that started to slow down, I needed another outlet. It's hard to exercise 7 days a week and then not have that. So that's when I turned to the gym and fell in love with weightlifting, did my first bodybuilding competition, and just kind of ran with it from there.
And when was that? When was your first bodybuilding competition?
That was about a decade ago now. It's been a decade, yeah.
Holy wow, it's like 2014-ish?
10 years, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, 10 years ago.
How was that? Because so people have a misconception that and you've seen some of your competition, that people working out must be in great shape. So they look physically, but health-wise, some of them aren't very healthy. They're doing crazy things to their body. Did you encounter that as well when you were in the fitness world?
Absolutely. So I was in the bikini category. So, you're not going for size and bulk. You have to be very lean and just toned, but you're not going for like that width or anything. But it was 12 weeks of eating 6 meals a day. You're measuring everything down to like the drop of oil, and training 3 times a day. So you wake up, cardio, heavy lifting in the afternoon, cardio again before bed. So as a woman, I think my body fat was just way too low. Like, there was a point where I'd brush my hair and like clumps were coming out. So you could just see maybe it looked great, but it's not really sustainable in the long run to be eating like that or training at that capacity. And, I'd feel ready for bed by like 7 p.m. every day. So realistically, that wasn't something that I could keep going in the long run, or I wouldn't want to. But I feel like that was what really sparked my interest in training and made me fall in love with the process. Like just seeing what you can do with your body in like 12 weeks of dedication just like really got me excited to teach people about nutrition. And yeah.
And at the time, were you in university when you were doing this? Or-
So I had just finished university. It was like my first summer off, and my parents were like, you don't have to start working yet, you know, like take the summer off, do whatever you want. So I decided to give this a go while I had a little bit of free time, because you need a lot of free time to do that. So
yeah, I would say like, well, think about it. Like you're waking up early, you're working out 3 times a week, and 3 times a day, and even having, say, had a partner having to eat the same thing. I don't know if Natalie and I could eat the same thing like that. Or even like you're eating again. That's crazy.
Well, even the meal prep, like in a day, I would have salmon, chicken, and beef like every single day, and I'm cooking every single meal. So like 3 different types of protein every day. Like you're constantly thinking about what you're gonna eat. So.
And how many competitions did you end up doing? Just the one?
2. So in that one, I placed for provincials. So I decided I would go again because I qualified. So I did the provincials. I came 7th. Only top 5 go to nationals. If I'd placed, I would have tried. But at that point, I was just going to get it done. Like once I start something, I finish it.
Right.
So yeah, I just did the 2, and that was enough for me. I was a lot less strict the second time around because I saw how hard it was on my body the first time. So I was a little more chill the second time around and enjoyed the process a little bit more.
Yeah. Well, you also talked about how the fish oils affected you. That was crazy. Like, so we know that fish oils, there's always supplements, a good thing. And you had an adverse reaction, which I don't think a lot of people know, like what happened. So you have this, like not a heart condition, but your heart acts different than somebody else's regular heart. And how did that
so
affect
I have Wolff Parkinson White. So the lower half of my heart gets the signal that a normal person would get basically twice. So on average, my heart's beating a little bit faster, and certain things will trigger it to be elevated even more, like caffeine, alcohol. And until my competition, we didn't know that fish oil was one of these things as well. So I was prescribed to be taking omega-3s like 2 pills 5 times a day. And I was like shaky, jittery, palpitations, all of it. And I finally figured out that it was probably coming from
How did you figure it was the
that.
fish oil? Like,
Well, I wasn't really taking too many other supplements, you know, so I came off the pre-workout and it was still happening. So really the only thing that was left was the omega-3. And my mom has the same condition. And she was taking krill oil and had similar effects. So, you know, even something so simple as a supplement you can just buy off the shelf can actually be pretty harmful.
yeah.
So.
Well, yeah, we normally see a lot of those, like, you know, the other forms of the older form of creatine used to cause a lot of kidney problems. Now it's a lot cleaner and it's a lot easier to digest, but it was causing stomach problems. Like we've heard of horror stories. And again, you just go over the counter. People think that when you go over the counter that it's all safe, but that's not true. Like, did you see the effects of Tylenol? Like somebody said that even one Tylenol, what it does to your liver, it's like drinking 6 beers.
Yeah.
One Tylenol.
Wow.
And then they're like, don't even touch Tylenol. Oh yeah, there's a whole thing of it's like having 6 beers. And if you happen to have a headache from alcohol and you take Tylenol, it's like a week's worth of drinking, like crazy, like binge drinking. So yeah, they be careful. The over-the-counter, the drugs, just because they're over-the-counter, even vitamins. Like, first of all, you got to be careful what's in those because they're not all what they say they are. And the second thing is like, yeah, they could be detrimental. I've heard of people getting, and this happened to me, not to the same extent, but people ODing on vitamin C.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's possible, for sure.
I remember when I was a kid, I was popping like one day. I was like, I don't know, like vitamin C. I was trying not to get sick, so I kept every couple of hours take a pop. I must have popped like 8 or 9. I went to bed. I was shaking. I had all these like I didn't know what was going on. It was. Then I threw up a whole bunch of vitamin C, and I OD'd on vitamin C. I didn't think it could happen. Yeah, so be careful. Was my point.
I think you should always try and get your vitamins, nutrients, even protein through foods as much as you can. You know, even the protein powders. If I'm going really heavy, I might have a scoop, but I'm always trying to get food first.
And this girl likes to eat. She comes straight in the morning. She gets food ordered to my house. That's not a joke. And we work out like at 7:30 in the morning. It's hilarious. So when was it that you officially started training? And what was the process? How did you began to start?
Yeah, so that summer that I was competing, I started getting my fitness certificate at the same time. People were naturally asking me for help at the gym, and I already loved it. So I thought, why not make this official and actually be certified and like really know what I'm talking about? So it kind of happened at the same time. And the coach that was helping me with the bodybuilding show offered me a position at her gym, which was awesome. And that was kind of my entry into working in fitness officially.
So is there any prerequisite? Like, did you need like a high school diploma to get into that university?
No,
What was
so yeah, I mean, there are people who've done kinesiology in university for fitness stuff, but you don't need to do that. You can do a certifications online, in person. There's tons of options for that. I chose the ISSA because it's recognized internationally.
What does that stand for?
International Sports Sciences Association. So, you know, I figured one day if I decide to live in Miami or something, my certification is good wherever I go. So you can do your basic PT1 through this type of association. And typically you'll also need your CPR and AED training.
But that's good for any. We should have that.
Everyone
anyway.
should
have it.
know how to do that, I think.
Yeah, I think when I was at Hydro, I used to do like every couple of years. I was the designated one. I was like, yeah, I'm like, I want to have kids. I want to know. I think everybody should know their CPR, how to, you know, help with the Heimlich or upper thorax thrust, whatever it's called. And they went back to the Heimlich anyway, all that fun stuff. It's always good to have. But it doesn't stop there. Every time I see you or we talk to you and you come train, you're doing some other course.
Right.
So
similar to you in real estate, right? Or in many professions, to keep your license, you need continuing education. So whether it's every year or every 2 years, you have to get a certain number of credits to stay certified. Unfortunately, not everybody does that in fitness, but I've kept up with that. Every 2 years, I'm doing another certification or extra ones in between, so constant learning. I know we both have to do it this year for real estate as well, right?
Mine's coming up. Yeah, it's the end of March. I have to figure it out.
Yeah, so same kind of idea. You've got to keep up with the credits and stay in the know as things are always changing.
Yeah, oh, that's good to know. All right, so a little bit shift, a little different. Like, so what? Well, for do you know the certifications you have, and how many do you have? Do you know like kind of stuff?
I have quite a few at this point. So I'm one certification short of being a master trainer. So I think that would be my ultimate goal. I'll still get more after that. I mean, again, every 2 years I'll keep going. But once I do this nutrition course, I'll be master trainer. So in general, I have the PT certificate, corrective exercise, exercise therapy, glute specialist, transformation specialist, which is more about the psychology with training. I've signed up for the nutrition one, so I've started that. And then I've done a few ones for fun. Like I've done the Titleist Performance one for golf. I flew to Boston for that. And then I've done another one in person at a Good Life gym where a trainer from Montreal came in to teach it. So yeah, whenever I have the chance, I try to do more.
Good for you. That's amazing. So for our listeners out there or the ones watching this on YouTube, they're looking to start maybe hire a trainer. Maybe they think things on their own. Maybe they haven't. It's like, what would you suggest you would tell to somebody, like if they're looking for a trainer, like, hey, where do they start? And the second thing is like, what are you looking for in a trainer? And the third part to that question is, does it matter what the trainer looks like, the physique? Because I have my own thoughts on that. But
So that's a great couple of questions there. I don't think it's so much about what the trainer looks like. I think it's about their lifestyle. So you should be picking a trainer that embodies the qualities that you aspire to have or that, you know, you can improve, right? Whether it's discipline, anything like that, right? I think you should look for someone that's like, wow, that person is the epitome of how I want my lifestyle to be.
Right.
So it's not necessarily I want to look like them, right? Like when I pick a trainer, it's usually a man. Like I know he's bigger than me, faster, stronger. He's going to teach me things that I don't know. I'm not picking someone that I want to look like, right? But it's, you know, do they have these qualities, the discipline, what's their eating like, even who do they hang out with? Are they partying on the weekend? Like, I think you have to pick someone that aligns with you, right? If maybe you do want a trainer who parties on the weekends because you want a lifestyle that's a bit more flexible. So again, I really think it depends on the person and what they're looking for.
yeah, the reason why I brought up that question, I think I talked to you before when I was at Good Life over here. There was a couple of trainers. One was like, she was obese, like she was large, and it was like training. And I'm like, I just find it funny. It's like, so somebody's supposed to be in the fitness world and it was clearly not in shape. It was hard to have, you know, credibility, I would think, for that, right? And it's like, and that's maybe not my barrier. Maybe I was prejudiced because the first time you see someone, there was other people seeing the same thing. But like we were talking, like it's funny taking advice from somebody who's not doing it themselves. I think that's what I meant. Like,
yeah, I think you have to practice what you preach. You know, if I'm telling my clients, which I do all the time, like cut down on drinking, I don't drink. So it makes sense when I say it, right? But if you're telling people eat like this,
She tells
work
me that
out
all
like
the
this.
time, by the way. We haven't gone there yet. I've cut down a lot, though. You know
Right.
that. I've cut down a lot, but yeah. Like
So, if you're preaching something, people will take you more seriously if you're actually doing those things, right? And this is where it doesn't matter how much education you have, right? You could have gone to university for kinesiology and have 20 certifications, but if you're not applying those things to yourself, who's going to take you seriously, right?
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, that's good. I like that too. So yeah, I've always practice what you preach, right? So any kind of so COVID obviously. So I was gonna say any kind of weird things happen during COVID because so during COVID, you were mostly training at gyms, right? And we still trained at your dad's house. Were you taking most of your clients like at your private gyms, or were you mobile everywhere else? And is that still the case?
So during COVID, there was practically no in-person training, right? Like unless we were outside in a park, that part of the business was shut down for a while, which was a pretty big struggle. I mean, you were around for it. You saw how much of a toll that took on me. So
and
everything
on my body. COVID was not good for any of us.
So everything shifted to we had to pivot to online
on the side
training.
note, I went to show her dad a property. He looked at me and goes, "Wow, you gained weight." I'm like, "Thanks, Dennis." I'm like, "I haven't seen your daughter in a year. Like, what do you expect from me?" Like, I remember that. I'm like, "There's nowhere for me to train at that point because we weren't allowed. We couldn't even go to your parents' house. We couldn't go anywhere." Like, sorry, go on.
Yeah, so everything pivoted to this virtual training, which it worked, but it was really difficult, right? When you're used to that face-to-face interaction, cueing people, like just having those relationships, and now you're just looking at them behind a screen and you can't really see the form like you're trying to. It just wasn't the same.
Yeah.
So I'd say at the time, maybe 60% of my clients continued to train on Zoom. Others just couldn't, whether it was, not having anything at home, not having the technology, or just like not feeling motivated to do it. So I tried to create a group class, and we had between 40 and 60 people sign up. I was running that a few times a week on Zoom. Again, we just tried to do whatever we can. Like there were people shoulder pressing with wine bottles and laundry detergent, like pretty much whatever you can use as a weight. Yeah, and we did that for about 2 years until we could come back in person.
Yeah. Are you still doing any Zoom classes now?
So right now my Zoom clients live downtown. So before COVID, I used to drive downtown. I'd be there at 6 a.m. in their condo, but we have now stayed on Zoom. We still have the same time, but they do it from their place, turn on the screen. So in that sense, it's kind of cool that we were able to make that pivot, and it does make more sense right now at the time being. And then I have a few clients that are snowbirds, or they travel a lot for work. So whenever they're away, whether it's at another home or they're in a hotel, they can just turn on the screen and we keep it going. So
that's pretty good.
That's one great thing that came out of it, that I wasn't doing any virtual training before.
Yeah.
So at least now it's an option.
Yeah. And it's not one you obviously prefer. It's one of those ones where you're traveling, which makes sense, right?
Exactly, yeah.
But you also do in-house training at a golf course.
Yeah.
Right? And we got the Weston. Am I allowed to say that?
Yeah.
Okay. So what are those people? Are they looking for golf to help with their swings? Like what does that kind of look like?
Yeah, so I'm there a couple times a week now for 7 years. I'd say the average person there is looking to improve their golf game, but also just have a handle on their quality of life, right? It is an older population. I think the average age of the club is around 68. So it's just, we're trying to prevent injuries, decrease pain, play a round of golf without needing 4 Tylenols afterwards because the back is hurting. So it's more just maintaining and that kind of thing. I haven't really encountered anyone looking for like a big weight loss journey or anything like that. It's more the golf fitness and day-to-day life.
So we've had some funny stories, and then is there anything you would say would sticks out in your mind that people might not know about training and stuff too? Like what are some of the funny things that could happen in a training course? Like I guess that's an ad hoc. I didn't give her that question. I'm just trying to think off the top of it.
Like because during a workout or?
Yeah, there were some weird things that happened during workouts, like maybe some scary stuff, but there's been some funny stuff. I don't know if you could talk about something, but do you have anything in particular that pops into mind that
my very first client ever, it was pretty fun. He was doing a really heavy squat. This is the first gym that I worked at, and I heard like a snap or a pop. I don't know what it was. And he just made this face and he looked shocked. And then he ran to the bathroom. So I don't know, like, did he injure something? Like, I have no idea what it was. So apparently his boxers just like split into two pieces, like perfectly down the middle. So, you know, the chances of that happening are rare, but
Yeah, I'd say so.
yeah. So I mean, things like that happen. We have
You haven't had anybody defecate or pee all over your property? Like
no.
I was no throw ups, like no puking, none
No
of that stuff?
puking. And I don't focus on high intensity or cardio workouts,
Yeah.
right? Like everything is heavier, slower, more controlled. So maybe that's why I haven't encountered puking. Like I'm not going to throw you on a bike and push you to the point where you want to puke.
And by the way,
anyways.
we had some trainers, and this is for Owen and Isaac. We had some trainers back in the day that it was their goal to make us puke. And this is why I'm asking, right? So the difference when I went to Ariana was it was like we work on, like I work on a lot of strength training, a lot of heavier lifting. When we do stuff, we do a lot of like complex, you know, movement stuff,
Yeah.
things I wouldn't do on my own, higher rep stuff. And that's why it's kind of cool. We still burn like tons of calories when we're doing
Yeah.
that. In an hour session, we're burning active calories, 300, 350, sometimes 400, non-actives like over 600. It's still doing, you still get the sweat in, but it's a little different than just lifting heavy. But I literally had trainers that their goal was to make us puke.
Yeah.
It wasn't right. It was just,
No.
it was just odd. It's a different mentality, right? Oh,
Well,
yeah.
I've had a lot of like clients who've come to me who have tried other trainers at box gyms and they had exactly that experience and hated it, right? And if a person's coming to personal training, they maybe already don't feel fit and they know where they stand. There's no point in you throwing them on a bike and making them feel terrible and feel out of shape. Someone knows when they're out of shape. I don't think you need to point it out or make them feel terrible. I think that that's a pretty big deterrent nowadays.
Yeah. Well, I was also saying, how does training change? Is the mental aspect since COVID also, has that been a huge factor in your business since COVID?
Yeah, so I feel like, you know, I saw a bit of both. Like there were some people definitely that lost a lot of motivation or others that went the other way, right? Like became really obsessed with fitness. But I definitely think once COVID ended overall now, I've seen everyone get a little bit more on the health wagon. Like I've seen decreases in drinking overall. I've just seen a bit more like health consciousness since COVID now,
Yeah.
right?
And also fads. You're seeing like, there was a big push for a few years ago when the BBLs were coming out, and all these people were trying to glow your butt, you know, like grow your glutes. It was like, you know, there's all those training courses. Those fast things, is that still happening? Are you still seeing people trying to, like, because we talked about that before, how these girls were coming to you try to get bigger glutes. Is that still happening in this market, or has it changed?
Oh yeah, I think that the glute growing desire is definitely still there. That trend is still on par. But again, it's not a quick fix, right? BBL is quick fix, but when you're in the gym, that's going to take months and years of
It's
dedication.
healthier for you too, though.
Yeah,
It's way healthier. And it
absolutely.
looks way better in my opinion, right?
Yeah,
It just
absolutely.
yeah. But so is there something like, what would be a trick? So like to, not a trick, but for somebody doing the glutes is obviously, we talked about this. Oh, and it's consistency is key. It's the same thing in the gym.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember listening to a guy and talking, he goes, well, if you want to grow your arms, he goes, you got to eat.
Yeah.
He goes, and that was the thing. Is that the same thing with the butt situation? Like, or like, and that's one question. The second one is, I also heard that you're not supposed to just point at one part of your body part and try to modify that with more exercise. It doesn't always work that way. So
Right.
how does food affect the BBL or the natural BBL, the glutes? And the second thing is like, is it just strengthening that one part of your butt? Is it really going to make a huge difference, or are we looking overall?
Right. So food, definitely. I'd say majority of women
They need to eat
don't
more?
eat enough.
Yeah. And protein.
And when they, protein, like, you know, they may think that they eat a lot, but when I actually get them to write it out, they're usually like 500 to 1,000 calories under a normal day, right? And that's not even trying to build muscle. So factor in trying to grow your glutes, you got to be eating a lot more food, right? And then with the exercise, the glutes are something that you can target directly, and you actually need to turn them on properly. Like you've got to get some band work going to activate them, and then really heavy lifts. Like, you know, you see girls online doing a body weight squat saying that they grew their glutes. It doesn't work like that. There's no way. Like,
Well, we send each other like a lot of memes, like reels and stuff too.
Yeah.
Where we talk about fitness stuff, and sometimes you send me like, "Look how fake this is," and you can see like we're not stupid. We're guys too. We can see it too.
Yeah.
It doesn't look natural when they're doing that.
well,
right?
the hamstrings don't match, the quads don't match. You know, you've got to build the other leg muscles as well. And there's no way that you can. If you're doing a really heavy deadlift, your hamstrings are going to grow with your glutes as well.
Yeah.
So.
What do you, for a transition to somebody to glow, to have to see like, start seeing good results, I would say, in a glute training program, what do you think is like, what's the kind of average you're seeing, like, for somebody seeing a good turnaround if they're doing exactly what you say? Like, would it take,
I'd say you've got to give yourself at least 3 to 6 months for any type of transformation, not just glutes. And even for like the motivation factor and for you to sustain those habits and like to keep going, you've got to do something for at least 6 months.
That's cool. And at the trainer time, like, what are your clients? How often do you see them? It's like somebody grow glutes, so they have to see you like 3 times, or they do a lot of stuff on their own. Like, how does that work?
Yeah. So, I mean, I have clients like yourself where I'll see them once a week because they love to do other things or train on their own as well. And then I have people who come.
Well, we also gossip a lot too. I think that's also a problem. I think like it's just a little bitch fest downstairs. It's like, and it's always, a lot of it's work related. We're like, look at this. We don't see each other for a week and we've known each other for like 20 years. So it's different. We go downstairs and we'll talk and it's like, you won't believe it. And it's not always about like our family. Sometimes our kids will do something too, or our partners will do something, but it's not always that. We're talking like shit that happens with our like work. And I'm like, you're not going to believe this stuff that happens. And we'll bring it back to the real estate aspect. Ariana is notorious that every deal she's done with us, it is the most messed up deal we've ever had. Like, she's literally stumped like our broker of records. And they're like, we have no idea. She'll come to me. I'm supposed to be like in this game for 10 years, supposed to know all this stuff. And she'll ask me questions. I'm like, I've never seen this before. And I'm like, she goes, what do you mean? I'm like, this is not normal. Like, she had a client that wanted to like, we're the well. He wanted to dig his own well and drop his own bucket in. And they're like, and there was a whole thing about this water situation. So we ended up having to talk to Michael Stothers, our broker. And he's like, I don't know what to do. I've never heard a broker say this. He goes, I have no idea.
I think it's because like I am a worrier too, and I'll always think of the worst case scenario. So even like with clients, like doing a deal, I'm like thinking like, okay, if this goes wrong, like I'm always just thinking of every possible scenario. So I'll come up with these questions and just drive you crazy, right?
Then she goes and gets married. We're gone for a month, right? And because we have a good network, and my new buying agent, Lori, too. So she's like, when do you guys want to take it? I'm like, we'll give it to Lori and I'll help Lori to do this. And she has a great client named Gino. Gino's awesome. So we've rented a property for him before. We like to help Ariana. I'm like, and again, it's a pre-construction, nothing crazy. It's just for lease. And I swear to God, of having the most complicated lease from the builder I've ever seen in my life. Of course, it's one of Ariana's clients when she's away, and we can't figure out like all of us. We're like, even again, I called Michael again, and he's like, I don't know. We kind of bounced ideas off each other because, well, what's happening was like the builder, like they own a property. So what happens with that is that during occupancy is a period of when your unit's ready, but the rest of the building is not ready. So a builder registers, which means you actually own the unit when everything is ready. But in the meantime, in order for them to save costs, when your unit's ready to go, they'll give you the keys and you pay them what we call like a phantom mortgage. It's called occupancy fee. And you pay them a certain amount of money. So it's like, it's supposed to cover some of the taxes and the maintenance fees. So occupancy period. In the past, not all of the builders allowed you to rent out the property during this period because they technically own the unit. Something happens, they're on the hook. But because of how rents have changed and how pre-construction is now, like people aren't closing, they've been really lax on it. But you just got to get the go ahead from the condo corp. Sorry, from the builder. In this situation, they allowed us to go on MLS. They gave us permission. But when it came to the lease, it was like, well, we need you to be month on month. And the problem, because they don't want to be on hook, they only own it, and like Gino only is going to own Gino's going to own this property in a couple of months. So they will allow a tenant to live there, but it has to be month to month. But in order for Gino to be able to get his HST back, you have to have a lease for a year. So we were trying to figure out how to get around this, and they wouldn't let us sign a full year lease because they still technically owned it, even though it doesn't matter. And it was. Anyway, it was just, we've never seen this before. And again, of course she's away, and it's like, we call her and she's like, every single deal she's had there's not been one deal I think we've worked on together, which wasn't somewhat complicated. Even the deal we sold 16 Haven Grove. And remember, like we were supposed to, and now when she was like kind of just on the backside, she was more of like a, preferable, like I took the lead on it. And I was like, of course, even that one had an issue with it. Of course, her comment, we go to work out, we just bitched about the whole hour about, I can't believe this freaking thing. And so anyway, so we do have a lot of these pitch fests.
I feel like I encounter things like this. Well, I have been my whole life, and it makes you stronger. You learn things every time, and now you're part of it too.
Gee, thanks for that. I love it. So we talk about this. So Ariana is like, eventually, I think we talk about in the fitness stuff, obviously this is your bread and butter, but you still keep your real estate license. Is that also open up the doors for you, both fitness and real estate, being the career you're in?
Absolutely, right? Like even the client that you just mentioned, like that's a long-standing fitness client of mine. We met at the golf club, trained him for many years, and I've gotten quite a few of my leads from fitness. The lease I just did in November was one of my fitness clients. So I do think that, you know, the businesses pair well together. Like we're in the business of people.
Yep.
And I see real estate more as a long-term thing for me. We've talked about this before. Like I started this quite a bit younger than you. When you look at the market now and prices, like realistically, how many people my age are buying houses for $2 million, right?
Yeah.
So
we just talked about that Owen too. It's like, it's trying to change the mentality, try to get somebody into like saying, sure, you want a $2 million home, but you can't afford it. You need to get into like a $300,000 to $400,000 or $400,000 or $500,000 property to start.
yeah.
And it's almost like the younger generation breaking that mentality, saying like, this is what you need to do, right? In order to afford this next year, you have to build. Like,
Yeah.
nobody just goes out and buys the first home as a $2 million home. And I love that aspect of you too. Like you are building with the older clients, but some of them have children, which you can help them grow as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I definitely see it as a long-term thing for me. You know, how long can I train 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 people a day, right? It's just not sustainable for the rest of my life. I think I'll always be training, but not in the same capacity.
Yeah. Well, and you also, the fitness also open doors. You do some like some modeling and stuff too, which is great too.
Oh,
like
yeah.
they like that too. So it's
Yeah,
not
for
just one
sure.
aspect. So if you are going to do this right, I like that fact. If you like, she does it really well part-time. I think you're great. Like, cause the good thing about doing it part-time as well, like you don't lie to your client saying I do this full-time, because you have a team that follows it, which works with somebody like myself that, you know, when you don't know what to do, like, you know, come to us, or if you need me to be the lead on certain things, we do that. We work on that together. And there's other times, because of your flexible schedule, well, somewhat flexible, sometimes you can just take the lead and I just kind of help her along the way. So
Yeah.
if you are looking to real estate, do some part-time, I'd always have some sort of mentor. We've talked about this before, coach, teammate, something like that helps you along the way so you can help your day to day. Unfortunately, we have to wrap up. I know kind of the time flew. I don't know how you felt,
It
but
did fly. Yeah, that was fun.
if you're looking, if you're here and somebody's listening to this and they want to get like be somewhere where you are, like whether it's career in fitness or real estate, most is to the fitness stuff, because
Sure.
they already hear me how to get into real estate. I think people get that, but maybe the fitness industry, like, would you give them any advice, what they should be looking for, what they should do?
Sure. I think that, you know, you should start with your own health, like put yourself through some sort of transformation so that when you do get to the point of teaching other people, you know and you feel what you're talking about. You need that education, so get the certification. You're not going to get insured anywhere without the certification, so you need that. And I'd say maybe start in a box gym or even a boutique gym so that you can learn from other people and also find your niche, right? Because you can't just train everybody all the time. You need to find what you enjoy, who you mesh with, what you specialize in. And it's nice to be in a gym where you can get leads walking in and you're a little bit less stressed out about finding clients, at least in the first year or two, until you can really figure out what works for you.
Oh, that's good. And if somebody wants to follow you on Instagram, I guess that's the best way. Or if they
Sure.
want to train with you, what's the best way of doing that?
Yeah, Fit by Ariana, Instagram. That's it.
It's pretty easy. And your real estate page?
Real Estate Ariana.
Cool.
Simple.
So obviously we like when you follow along, but guys, even for you, if you like this content, you want to hear like some more about Ariana, you can always DM us, ask us questions. I always like to bring up topics, and Owen and I talk about this a lot. We'd like to hear from our audience, say, hey, can you talk about this? Because we get ideas for shows based on what you guys and the feedback you guys give to us. And we always say, if you like the content as well, we always want you to like and subscribe, share this. Hey, the more the better, right? Like, so we can continue giving this great content, and we love providing it for you. So for another episode from the DC Talks podcast, we want to say thank you for tuning in, and thank you, Ariana, for coming today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Bye for now.